Well, hello and good morning. Welcome to Tuesday's reading. So, in case you maybe didn't get to join us yesterday, we're looking at Luke chapter 12 this week. We're looking at heavenly perspective versus an earthly perspective and where we find ourselves in that. And so, our passage today is verses 13 to 21, which is subtitled in my Bible as The Parable of the Rich Fool. And just as a sidebar, the first verse of this says, someone from the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." And I just find that just a really interesting thing. Jesus has been gaining this kind of reputation as a wise person and someone who gets to choose and settle disputes. And I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing to note about how people were relating to him at the time. So the parable of the rich fool is the one where there was a rich man who had an abundance of crops because his fields were being very fruitful, and so he decided that the best thing to do would be to knock down all his barns, build some bigger barns, fill these bigger barns with the fruits of all of his labour, and then just sit back and have an easy life. And then God says to him, "No, tonight's the night you die, so who's going to get all of your stuff?" And I find that an immensely challenging thing. The question that came to me is a kind of, who or what are we working for? What are we labouring for? What is the fruit of what we're doing? Is the fruit for us so that we can sit back and have an easy life, or are we living in a way that honours and glorifies God, in a way that is generous to God and in a way that is generous to those around him? Or are we storing everything up? Are we keeping it safe in bigger barns? And I think the reason this passage is so challenging to me, maybe to us in general, is that it's very opposite to what the world tells us to do. The earthly perspective tells us that we need to save and have a pension and get on the property ladder, and these are the markers, like really tangible financial markers that we use to mark how we're doing. And like, I have a pension because that seems like a wise choice, but is that then counter to what this passage is saying? What is God's perspective on our financial resources? I mean, on the one hand, yes, I am putting money into a pension, but at the same time I felt like God was calling me into becoming a therapist, and so as a family, Dave and I are investing heavily in that calling, in that thing that God is calling me to. So I suppose that's where I'm finding myself in that tension at the moment, in between saving and spending. What does it look like to be generous towards God and to be generous towards people, and also be fiscally wise? I'd really love to hear any thoughts that you have on this. People maybe who have thought about this and prayed through this. If you've got any wisdom to share with us, I'd really love to hear. So maybe pop it in the comments below, or drop me an email, let me know. But I'd really love to hear from you. So have a great day. God bless, and I'll see you tomorrow.